show for CDL London, and that is all we're going to be talking about today. Mostly the CDC such, and all that good business that comes in between, of course. It is myself, Brody Infinity, Connor Mez, and Chris Stealth here with us today. The regular bunch, the motley crew. We're here to talk to you about some Call of Duty. So, where do we get things started? Well, it's going to start, of course, with the CDL results. The smallest, more to the point, the CDC results. 33 teams attended this event in London this past weekend. 33 for pretty fucking whack reasons, but let's talk about the results nonetheless. There's obviously a lot of roster mania happening as a result of it, so we'll cover that amongst the results as well. But as much as we can, at least, because obviously not a lot of it's confirmed right now, and whatever we do know behind the scenes, we're not at liberty to say because we're not cunts. Anyway, well, speak for yourself, Chris.
I was gonna say maybe me.
Speak for yourself, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, so you're not exactly gonna, have that intel anyway, are you? Really? I mean, let's be honest. Oh, never mind.
Can't hear what Chris is saying anyway, mate. He's lagging out of his arsehole and his microphone doesn't work.
Christ, man. Where is Chris in the country now? Fucking.
Hey, you leave it out, okay? It's just some of my settings are going nuts.
Yeah, okay.
Middle of the countryside. Sheep.
Yeah, let's. All right.
I'm not in Wales.
Let's try not to go out of our PG zone, as it were. We'll try and keep it.
Just drop the words, the word cunt in the first 2 minutes.
I love the way Chris tweets, by the way. Have you seen his tweet?
No.
So apparently I'm going to be talking about CDL London like it was discussed over the week.
Mate.
Yeah, what is COD for Chris these days?
His tweets make me laugh, man.
Right then, CDC London. Let's go from the top down. So, start with Team Singularity. Another sweep for these guys. Only lost one map all weekend long. Straight through the winners bracket. What are we thinking?
I mean, look, it's another day at the office for Singularity. I think coming into it, because we had that, obviously the predictions, and I didn't know if they would be able to get past. Because obviously the thing is, right, for Singularity, this event was very different going into it, right? You had Team War, who again had major problems at Minnesota with the fact that one of the players basically chopped up their entire internal organ system on Sunday, and so things could look very different in Minnesota. Secondly, of course, you have the Royal Ravens Academy, another big hitter that at Minnesota they lost a player. So for Minnesota, going into that, or coming out of that event, you could kind of consider that a blip maybe for Singularity. This was the event where they solidified themselves as the top team at the moment. And the fact, as you briefly mentioned there, that they dropped one map throughout the entirety of the tournament, that's an insane stat line.
I think it was a domination as well, like the most fluxy game mode there is.
They performed incredibly, just out of world performance, right? I mean, just brilliant all around from Singularity. And I think it'd be foolhardy to consider them anything besides the top team in at least European amateur Call of Duty.
Wow, the people that fought it was me, George, and Sean, because we're the only ones that predicted Singularity to win.
So that's only because you have
your
I did have Electrify fourth, and Sean had Pink Wall. So it comes with a pinch of salt, doesn't it? Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who comes second?
Train Hard. Everyone, the one who literally no one predicted to come above top three.
Can I just confirm, Connor, that you're on a podcast to talk about challenges at Call of Duty London?
Yeah,
and you didn't know who came second.
Yo, I told y'all to do that. I wasn't even at London.
Where's your research? I
weren't even keeping up with it, to be fair. I was just busy that weekend, so I was going to come down on Sunday, but obviously because of the storm and that, I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, because of the storm.
Well, let's move on then from Singularity, unless Chris and Connor have any closing words to talk about that team.
No, I just think
I never have anything to say to you, if I'm honest. It's just
they're just too good. I genuinely think that they could. I think Bids is right in that interview we did with Dexter. They probably could take on 90% of teams in the league.
Oh, 100%. Like this is the thing, right? Because this is like last year, how where we had the open bracket and the pro teams entirely separated all the way up until champs, and throughout the entire season, everyone was talking about like Singularity and teams like them, saying, "Oh, watch these teams just fucking rip for everyone at champs." No one believed anyone. No one knew it would happen, and then they did it, and it was like
one in algae and everything.
Yeah, it's like
everybody was so against them.
Best moment of my life.
And at the moment, I think a lot of these players, because obviously they're not getting the exposure on stream, it's kind of like, it's like, where are they going to end up in the pro teams? Because I reckon a lot of these pro teams, maybe they will pay attention to challenges. If they see this, 100% these guys will end up on a pro team within a year. Like, so at least like the majority of the players on the roster. At least like, well, I'm not going to name names, but
Insight is legitimately the best assault rifle player in Europe.
Yeah. No, well, no, I'm not going to go that far because I don't know that factually. We haven't seen him perform against the AR
I
players.
think he is. I think he
Well,
is.
yeah, but you
I think
haven't
he's.
seen,
I think he's better than
you
rated.
haven't seen him take on those players.
And he ain't played against me. So.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean,
Actually, I think he probably second to Wuskin, and that'd be what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, because Watkins had a great performance this weekend, right?
Well, no, and Minnesota, Jesus.
Just rude. But I think that's a big thing you hit on the nail on the head about the no not being stream coverage as well, because
how are they supposed to be scouted?
But
we'll get to that later on, right?
Well, if you look at us, right, how we what we do, we look at that IM bracket, we look at these open events, teams and like organizers, Singularity, etc. Of the pro level, they won't be taking much notice, and without a stream and without all the coverage that they don't get, you're not gonna be able to see. And it goes back to you have to look last season. It took Singularity to getting into champs and seeing what they can do for Kleenex and Code to get picked up and go further in their career.
Well, just Kleenex, really.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
I mean,
and to go further in that career, because that was one not a gifted opportunity, obviously, but it was one gifted opportunity without the stream coverage like being looked at.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that later because we will have a larger discussion because obviously we had one at Minnesota, and we'll talk about
discussion about that.
We'll talk about whether or not later on things have changed after London, right?
I hope they will.
Let's get through the teams list. So obviously we just
Train
talked about
hard,
Singularity,
Train
hard esports.
What a
for me,
shocker
this weekend. Biggest shocker. And the thing is for Train Hard Esports is they've been a fairly good squad over there. They've been very, very consistent.
They've been top 4
throughout the 2K so far. They've been getting top 4, top 8, pretty consistent performance. And for that reason alone, I think all of us pretty much had them in the top 4. But I don't think anyone guaranteed, I guess, that they'd be second. Really great performance. And I think a lot of that is down, obviously I'm not going to take anything away from the players, but the fact they had Daryl there just consistently bringing them back from the edge of defeat time and time again, getting their heads in the right position. I think that made a hell of a lot of difference to the squad this week.
I was looking at Daryl all weekend, and he just looked like he was about to stroke in like 95% of their matches because they had so many game 5s and everything. They really did. You can't take anything away from their run. They fought through everything. I think they went 2-0 down at one point. They reverse swept one team that I'm not sure who that was.
Yeah,
that was War, wasn't it? I'm not sure, but they went the whole way. They've done everything that they took out everybody except Singularity this weekend. I'm pretty sure they had to play Ravens and War, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they did, because they played Ravens in the losers bracket final and they played War before that, I think. I could be wrong. But they literally went through most of the good teams this weekend, and they've come out of it still looking great. Before this event, I'd have thought genuinely there would have been a roster change on the cards if one of the players wasn't performing very well. Or if they didn't get a good result, but this just makes me completely think differently about that. Keza was playing fantastically all weekend, he's actually back to a form that he was in World War II. Linny was surprisingly good in S&D compared to what I've seen from before. Obviously he's a good player, but I've never seen him be as stellar as he was this weekend, firsthand. And then everybody else on the roster was just picking up all the slack. Everyone was just bombing. Nasty was insane. He nearly clutched 2 1v5 single-handedly in the Singularity match in the final. It was just mind melting.
But he's always been good, right? Now, I mean, we noted Nasty since the start of the Black Ops 4 season, right? I mean, back when he was playing ESPUs, and then of course at the end of the season, he ended up winning the amateur finals. So Nasty, I mean, it's kind of expected at this point that he's going to be a player of that caliber, but it's good to see him performing on that level.
He's just been unlocked.
Great heights. Yeah, I mean, right? And he's one of the names now that's going to go forward and do bits. So I'm happy for him. I think I'm already happy for the Train Hard roster on the whole, because I think they really deserved a performance like this. And I think the situation now changes quite significantly for the top 4 in general. And I think Train Hard have really, if they weren't a top 4 team before, they definitely are now.
Yeah, I'd agree.
100%. No one even had him close to that. It was only Shift and Alicia that had him 3rd. Everyone else had him 4th, apart from your Electrifies and for some reason, and your Pink Walls.
We'll get to Electrify. I didn't think they got very, very unlucky this weekend. Actually, they could have been top 4. They were one round away from being top 4.
But is that unlucky, or they just didn't perform in that round?
Yeah, obviously they didn't perform in that fucking round, you dingus. But I think overall, I don't think the team was sticking together after that performance. I think someone's going to get poached, and I think that's someone's gizmo. Anyway,
well, there's already a lot of roster moves going on, isn't there? So
I know.
Yeah. Well, we will get to those later.
Roster move.
What we can talk about anyway.
Moving on. Anyway, if Chris, unless you have any closing thoughts on Train Hard, we'll move on to Ravens.
No, I've just been very impressed with them. You can see the work that obviously Darrell's been putting into the team. And I mean, you said Linney and Nassi, they went off this weekend, and it's nice to see Linney, coming back from where he was teaming with Tommy at Champs last year. To putting in a top 2 performance at London now. I'm actually kind of like hoping to see a lot more from him, because I know that he's a very young talent and he can certainly go far.
Right then, I guess we'll move on to the Ravens. The Ravens Academy, that is, not the Royal Ravens, the team that was obviously is their home event this weekend. I would suggest, from what some of us were predicting, it was a pretty underwhelming event for them to come top 3. I mean, it's probably where their ballpark figure is. Obviously, there was a few issues with them having to be ushered away and Mad Cat waiting for that fucking hype battle and all that kind of nonsense. But that's by the by. We'll talk about that later. To the point, though, I can't really put my finger on where this team is going wrong.
I don't think they are.
No, I think it just needs more work.
They're just
needs work.
With the names on the team, they should be peaking top 2 every event. You not think?
No, they shouldn't.
You don't. Well, at this event,
no.
At this event, with only European teams here, they shouldn't be beating Train Hard.
No. You got to think, right. First of all, Royal Ravens Academy online have not been performing in the way you're suggesting.
Dog shit.
They haven't at all season. I think they won 2K early on, and beyond that, I don't know where they've peaked, to be honest. But I think they've got top 4 finishes, top 8 finishes. It's happened, right? And again, at Minnesota, while they got disappointing, you can kind of chalk that one off because they didn't have their full roster. It doesn't count.
Yeah.
That wasn't their fault. That being said, I think top 3 for them is a fucking great. I don't think they'll be happy with it, but I think given the circumstances, given how tight that top 4 is right now, for the Royal Ravens Academy to bounce back from Minnesota in the way they have, to bounce back from some of their 2K, their 1K placements in the way they have, I'd be happy if I was the Royal Ravens Academy. And I think this applies to a number of teams from London. I've heard a number of teams that they're disappointed with some of their placements. And I'm seeing those teams in their placements. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're literally playing fucking amazingly.
I think the difficulty
because it's not a 64 bracket event either. That's why they're looking at that. They're lowering their sales because it's not a big event.
I don't even think that's right as well. I think what they're doing is they're looking at a 32 team bracket, seeing its top 4, and then they're conflating that across to the North American side of things. So if it was a full 190 team event like it was last time out, they probably don't get top 3. They probably don't get top 16, or they probably do end up top 16. That's pretty unsatisfactory result. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
It does depend, because obviously the next time we're going to get to see those Americans and the Australians together with the Europeans is going to be the mid-season tournament in, I think it was June or May or June or something like that, right? So we're not going to get to see these guys play against those Americans for quite some time. So I think for now, the Royal Ravens, if they are unhappy with a 3rd place placement, which again, in my opinion, I don't think they need to be. I don't know. I think just push it to the back for now, because the next event they're going to be playing at is Paris. And again, it's going to be the same competition. It's going to be the same 3 teams that they're really competing with, unless, of course, there's a new one.
It's pretty likely with the roster changes.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we'll get to it later, because we will talk about the big rumor. We can't talk about the exact players, but there is a new team being formed. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But for me right now, I would be happy with the Royal Ravens Academy's performances. I think they're clutching up in the situations they need to.
They clutched up versus Electrify. They clutched up versus Electrify, which is fair enough. That was game 5, round 11, and I suppose. But then again, a team like Electrify, should you really be going that close with them? I don't know. There's a lot of things that you should be taking away from it for Royal Ravens. I think it's a good event for them, but it could have been better, and that's where I'll draw the line in that one. I don't know if anyone else has got anything to add on that front.
I think it just comes down just they need more scrim time, if anything. I think every single team does. It's still a new game. Don't forget, we're not that deep into it. We're not that deep into it realistically.
2 events in.
You're not that deep into
2 events in, 4 months.
The meta has changed significantly.
Yeah, but comparing to all the changes that are coming out as well and everything, teams are still trying to adapt and are still going to adapt.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Roster changes will change. Right. Well, we've already got enough patches. There's been some.
I'm waiting for a fat one that's gonna.
There'll always be more though.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. At the moment, I think the meta is settled, and I think it's settled for quite a good period of time. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be seeing any crazy changes to the meta anytime soon. Then again, it is Infinity Ward, and anything can fucking happen. So
Infinity Ward.
Who knows? Illuminati, mate. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Team War, because Team War, this one for me is where I draw the line.
This is a bummer.
This is where I draw the line on saying, actually, I kind of feel like if I'm on Team War, I come off of this. And this isn't, I want to preface this by saying this is not a rag on Team War. I think Team War are a great team. And the fact that they won 5 2Ks in a row is an incredible achievement. They
One-liners.
performed so well. Well, they performed so well against Minnesota. And even at Minnesota to get third place is pretty good, right? But coming into this event, I think they are going to be disappointed with fourth place. And
They
I
will
think
be.
their performance against the Royal Ravens Academy, and even I think in general, like, there were some close matches that
Shocking.
I didn't expect from Team War. And I'll be honest in saying I don't think they're going to be happy coming away from this event. I'll put it that way.
No,
Well,
I don't
you
think
wouldn't
they're
be.
gonna
It's
either.
it's a top 4 placement where they really should have finished second. If I'm honest.
Mm,
Of their online performances, they've been playing really well, and then they come into this event and it looked like they were just kind of sitting back. They were too relaxed about it. They kind of didn't look like the same team up until they got up to the top 6 placement, and then it kind of then sat forward a little and thought, okay, right now let's put in some effort. But by that point, it was too late because the rest of the teams were already well ahead of them with regards to warming up and being in a position where they wanted to.
yeah, I think what I like as well coming out of Minnesota because of what happened to Team War. Everybody was saying Team War would have won, Team War would have won, SMG wouldn't have won if that was the case. But now you're coming into
Get the
London,
fuck out.
and SMG have absolutely smoked the competition, dropping one map. And Team War, not going to say they weren't there, but they weren't there.
Yeah, I mean,
They were there.
They were there.
Yeah, but not to
Top
what
14.
Yeah, I saw
Well,
that.
no.
we all expected, though, is what I'm saying.
No,
I spoke to Dave
think
on
they're going to be
Friday.
disappointed.
Yeah.
They're going to be disappointed, and the reason they're going to be disappointed is the fact that again they got third place at Minnesota, where American and Australian teams are present, and they got fourth here in a fully European bracket. There is no way around that. You simply look at that and you think that's a disappointing finish. I don't think it is. At the end of the day, they were playing against a very hyped Train Hardy Sports and a much improved Royal Ravens Academy roster, and of course then Singularity, who again are the best team in challenges right now. So I think for War, again, they're going to walk away disappointed, and I can kind of see why. But I no doubt we'll see a very different War in the upcoming 1Ks as well as at Paris.
You think we're going to have changes in War?
From what I've heard, no. So again,
think there
these are the roster changes. From what I've heard, War is sticking,
Okay.
and understandably so. I think they're a very sort of. They've got experience on their team. They know how to fix problems about making the roster change. They're not idiots.
Yeah,
That's
Brody,
the
I've got to
point.
give you a little quick pat on the back, by the way, because we did just go and speak about Royal Ravens, and you didn't rag on Defrag. So
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't have a problem with Defrag anymore. I refuse to shit on him. If only because I'll point out again. Disclaimer: never had a real issue with Defrag. Just said that you had a shit performance one event. That's fucking it. Right. Moving on. Moving the fuck on. So that's War. Anyone got anything else to say about War? No.
just thoroughly underwhelmed with this event, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come back, but like this event really wasn't a good one. They had all the cards like in their favour. Like Steve-O wasn't sick, no one was sick, everything was going fine. Obviously, besides the shitty stage setup and coming up against the Train Hard Esports that was really strong, like that's pretty much all that you got to pass off on that one. Like you just got to chalk this event, just say this wasn't the one for us, chaps. Like that's it.
Yeah. Who did SMG drop a map to, by the way?
Train Hard.
Train Hard, okay.
Which is saying something again, because Train Hard was second place, man. It's an incredible stat. You've just you got to look at that and think
That
SNG are the
Ravens
best team in the
series, they
game,
just
or in
smoked
their
Ravens so hard. Like the thing that's winning them championships right now as well, for SMG is their S&D. Their S&D is incredible.
I think it's individual performances. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, you look at
Did you watch them play S&D?
Well, no,
Shit
they
was
play
like
together. But I
clockwork.
think individually, you're always having a player going off. Like
Yeah,
individually, like, you look at Chain. Chain's a hot prospect at the moment. I think he was the one to have like an 18 kill search and destroy, right? At this
17 in 9 rounds.
It's fucking silly. Like these guys have an incredible.
But the system has to
way
be in place to allow people to pop off like that. And if it's always Chain, then a lot of resources are being put into it. And that's just the way that teams work.
Well, regardless, it's they're the best team in the game for a reason at the moment, or the best team in challenges, I should say, not in game. Although they could be, who knows if they play the Chicago Huntsmen?
I still think
Atlanta
Atlanta.
phase.
I still think Atlanta are the best.
Or the Atlanta phase. I mean, obviously, we won't know until a few weeks' time anyway. Regardless, moving on. So the next 3 teams, the next 2 teams at top 6 for me. I think I am super happy if I'm Electrify and Elitist. Now we'll talk about Electrify first because they are a roster that hasn't had. I'm not going to say they've been bad, but they haven't had the best preseason. And then coming into this the event, I think top 6 is just an incredible placement for this roster.
I still think that this isn't their ceiling. Like the reason I say that is because like from what I've heard at least, I haven't really had a lot of time to sit down and watch Electrify. But from what I've heard from a variety of different players playing against them, playing with them, etc., is that the team basically at the moment is like 2016 Cryptic. It's just Gizmo. It's just all Gizmo right now. Like he's apparently an absolute pheno at the moment. And then the difficulty with it is like they only win really big series when someone else arrives. And at the moment, this time around in London, I think it was Brad and Genesis had a few good S&Ds and stuff, but it was mostly just fusions, right? So I don't know. With Electrify, I think I don't know if the team stays together. I really don't know. And more to the point, I don't know. I don't. You're right there, Brody.
Yeah, it's just fucking Kate's dragging a fucking spoon against the plate. Just like I'm literally waiting. I was like, "Can you please finish your fucking waffle?" And she's laughing. She knows what she's doing. You know what you're doing.
All
right.
Give him a slap, Kate.
Back
Go on.
back to Electrify. I think they are like they just need to unlock something. Like some of the players just aren't playing up to their potential. And like if they could hit that ceiling, like there's a skill ceiling there that can be reached. And it's not going to be a event winning skill ceiling, but it's like a top 4 skill ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you. I think like they're going to have to pull off something special to break into that.
Yeah, that's
that
what
top
I'm saying.
4.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they. I'd wager that they're probably not going to do it. Especially as the season goes on, of course, because again, you're going to see the Australians and the Americans get into the mixer when it comes to those mid seasons, and of course the end of season championship. So I don't really think that that they're going to break any kind of ceiling. I think, as you say, this is it. For me, I think this is an incredible event for Electrify. You look at their 2K placements, their 1K placements, top 16 pretty much every single time. Like, and at launch weekend as well. Like, for me, I think Electrify have had an incredible event. I think they should be super happy with it and any changes being made. Well, I don't necessarily see them making any crazy changes that will change the outline of the outcome of this roster, especially again with more rosters being formed.
What about if Gizmo gets poached? Roster's dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to say it's dead because, of course, you've still got the talent. In my opinion, I think Connor and Fusions are the players below him on that roster. If I was to talk about like pure talent, right? So
Literally,
I don't think it's a dead roster by any means. I just think they're going to need to find someone to replace Gizmo that has that sort of pizzazz. That
You know who
Gizmo
the one true king that needs to return is Alex Halley.
Well,
What's he doing these days? He's playing a lot of League of Legends.
Yeah, that's what he does.
he knows the wave. That's why.
He knows the wave. Gold,
He's
my gold 4 AD carry.
Oh dear.
Yikes! He's hard stuck gold 4. Rough.
yes. Anyway, elitist.
No,
Elitist.
this is a good
to be fair, right? Elitists piss me off. They really piss me
here we
off,
go.
right? And
No,
here's
don't
why
hold
they
back,
piss me
Brody.
off.
Tell us. how you
I'm
really
not
feel.
holding back on this. They got top 6
Strap
at
in,
an event
boys,
where they
strap
have
in.
not been performing as a top 6 team outside of London. They had an incredible performance this event, and then they go and make a fucking roster change. Why would you do that? You have no reason to make a roster change at all, unless something has gone cataclysmically wrong with your team, where you've had an incredibly bad argument. Why on earth would you make a roster change?
How do you know that didn't happen?
Zero, because I know it didn't happen. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why? It literally makes zero sense. Like, this roster has just had an incredible performance. Top 6, when the top 4 for all of us were pretty much solidified even going into the event. We kind of knew who the top 4 were going to be, regardless of what that top 4 actually looked like well, we all guessed.
George.
Besides George, who
Fuck off.
fucking did put Electrify in the top 4. I don't understand why Elite decided to make a roster change post-event. What I will say, though, is at the event, incredible performances all around. Top 6 is a placement they should absolutely be happy with.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd get top 6.
Like, they got knocked out of winners bracket by Singularity. Again, not a bad team whatsoever to lose to. They almost beat War 4.
Let's put asterisks by that. Like, they didn't get knocked out of winners bracket by Singularity. They got fucking clapped out of winners bracket by Singularity.
Yeah, but like, you can't stop Singularity. So like, that's the thing. I think that's not
It
bad
was.
at all.
It wasn't even a close series.
Yeah, they had a close run-in with University, but beyond that, I think you got
Oh, University!
elitist.
Fuck me.
Like, yeah, all right, you're not as dominant of a top 6 performance as you maybe like, but still, be happy with that.
It was
I
great.
think,
It was
anyway.
scraping a top 6. No, I agree with you. I don't think a change was needed. But Chax has gone FA, hasn't he? That's the thing that's happened.
Yeah, Chax has been removed from the team, basically.
Removed?
Well, yeah.
Removed
so
or he's gone FA? What's the semantics here?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you. Officially, free agency is the strap. I will say that Elitists do have a fifth.
Free agency is often the strat, but then sometimes that leads to lawsuits.
I can't say exactly who that fifth is. I will say though that in my opinion, and maybe get shit for this, I think on paper, I think Chaxter is better than their new fifth who they brought in. So, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the 1K, of course, on Saturday.
Maple says he got dropped. It wasn't like a.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, George has now fucking said it. So yeah,
I didn't. Maple said it.
Maple just put it in the chat.
You fucking
all right, okay. All right,
read
sorry.
your chat, boy.
I didn't see Maple in the chat, but there you go. Maple said it. Yes, he got dropped.
Fuck you, Sue Perkins.
I don't know why they did it.
I wondered how long it would be. I wondered how long it would be.
God damn it.
Slap like that again, mate. Come on. Right. Charlie Hixie
is in.
Okay, this is not me saying this. This is actually the first time I'm hearing this.
If Boots is correct in saying it's Charlie Hixie, I'll let you guys decide whether or not you think that's a good trade or what. I will say, I will like put an asterisk on it and saying that I have heard, to be fair, that Hixie has had good performances on this game and is actually an individual good player.
I would say.
So I will hold some reservation until I actually see them play.
I would say. I don't think you can call it yet until we see them play. Yeah. You just can't. Until we see them play.
This is the conversation we're having. We're having an on-paper conversation.
Oh, okay. I thought my connection had dropped there.
I've not seen Charlie play on this game, so I couldn't say even on paper.
You haven't seen Chaxter play either. He didn't fucking turn up.
Charlie got his best placement at London, didn't he?
What was his best play? What was the placement?
No, Ramsey's asking the question.
I don't know. What was Charlie's placement? Who was he playing? Who was he playing for?
Not placed top 12.
Who's he playing for?
Hixie. Yeah, he played for Mythos and got top 12. So.
Okay, yeah, this is probably a downgrade.
I mean, like you can't talk shit too much.
You can't say that though, because it depends on his team and obviously the other team that was dealing with.
The team was spitting in Chaxter's mouth. Luke Biddle, mate. What the fuck?
Filth.
Cheers. I mean, I'll go on record and say on paper, I think from what I've seen from both these players in past Call of Duties, again, you can't really apply it too much to Modern Warfare. I would personally say I'd prefer to keep Chaxter in that scenario, but obviously there'll be a bazillion reasons why they wanted to add a new player in. Maybe they didn't get on with Chaxter out of games. Ramsey's putting in chat that he thinks it's a sleeping schedule. Look, there are obviously a bazillion reasons. But
I was rolling him up in a spliff.
I think personally, Chaxter is on paper as a player. I think he's very good.
Is that a role for role swap, by the way?
Well, yeah, both subs.
Yeah. Are they? Okay, just making sure.
So yeah, we'll see. Obviously, I mean, we've got the 1K, so we'll see what Elite are like.
Let's see how they play.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in this week's 1K. To be fair, it's going to be.
It's going to be good. It's going to be spicy because we're going to see all these new lovely rosters that may or may not fucking happen. So, I can't wait.
Yeah,
it's going to be.
I think this 1K this weekend is going to be a major break or make for a lot of teams and their rosters.
Mm-hmm.
I think new rosters or ones that are
new rosters. So obviously, if these new rosters are gonna. Yeah, because if they're going to start comparing to how they did in previous 1Ks to how they're now performing with their new roster, a lot of teams, but it depends their mentality.
This isn't you seeing COD. It's not going to be like you play ban in 1K and all of a sudden the fucking team's out the door.
Like you've seen COD.
It does depend at the end of the day, right? Because it depends on the.
My camera wasn't fucking focusing. I had to try and click it back in.
You just throw some sauce on them.
It does depend on sort of the mindset of these players. Like you say, George, at the end of the day, this isn't youth COD, so I don't think they're going to be affected that much by it. I think it could be the last chance saloon for a number of teams.
For sure.
There are teams that I have heard were planning to break up and are no longer breaking up.
I've heard the same thing, yeah.
And I think if this 1K goes fucking badly for those teams, shit's going to go down. But I have, we'll see what happens. To be honest, roster mania is always spicy, so I kind of like to see a number of these teams, break up and form new rosters for this week's 1K. But again, we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Like we said, we'll talk about the rumored roster changes
right there. Of course, you can catch that 1K and 2K show here this Saturday.
Yeah,
fucking good plug. Are you going to be there for it this weekend?
I'm always there.
Right, yeah.
I just dip.
Dip to get dessert.
One of us always go. One of us
Are we going to
always
be doing
go.
it? No, I'll be here all weekend this weekend. I got no problems.
I mean, I'm here for this Saturday anyway, all day.
Yeah.
So.
Are we doing it on the Brody schedule, or are we doing it on the?
The Brody schedule.
Brody schedule is 15 minutes late, but that's fine.
Yeah, they'd be 15 minutes late and there all the time, you prick.
Okay.
And Connor leaving at 9:30 or whatever it is he's leaving at. He's got to go at some point.
Yeah,
9:15.
let's motor on.
Undoubtedly that we will not finish before then. We shall try.
Let's just power on through. Let's just get through these. Let's get up to top 16 and then we'll just cut it there.
So we'll talk about the teams in the top 16. So the next 8 teams, I suppose, are ones that maybe are they going to be happy with their performances? To be honest, I think looking at the top 16, the names there, I kind of would expect to be top 16 considering all the names outside of, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So like if they were to place lower than some of the teams in the top 24, top 32 position, I would be very surprised.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't think there's any notable teams in top 8 to top 16 that I'd really be surprised that are there.
Well, yeah, exactly. I agree. I think like teams, I'll be honest in saying I think like teams like Octane City and Exodia maybe to an extent. I think maybe, but like you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe fell out of the top 16.
Gizmo to Team War. What am I hearing?
There's always potential for Gizmo to Team War. Why not? Why not Gizmo to Team War?
No.
I think Bids is just fucking feeding us false information right now.
Bids has just got us on strings.
You little shit, Bids. Get out.
I'm joining Singularity then.
Oh, you can't tell him to get out. He's like a 1/10 of our viewership.
Yeah, he's
That's
like
true,
literally 10% of our viewership.
He's literally 10% of our viewership. We'll talk about the teams though that like maybe they would want it to be
our
in
Lord
the
and
top
Savior.
8.
You've not seen scrimming? I haven't seen anyone scrim, mate. I don't use my PlayStation.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake, moron. I'd say like teams that are going to be disappointed themselves. I know for a fact that Aporia, coming off back of top 12 or now exit Aporia,
Not really.
they're
Lawsuits.
very unhappy with their performance. Like, and I kind of understand why, because they've been trying to break top 8 online in the 2Ks and the 1Ks, and they've even been, I wouldn't say they've been struggling to do that, but they haven't done it, I think, as often as they would have liked to have done it.
Well, the key word trying.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
they can do top 8, but I think just the fact that they've got top 16 so many times, I think this was expected. I think they just really wanted it to not happen, and it just didn't go that way.
A team again with a lot of potential that is yet to be realised. Obviously now
It's not going to be realised anymore.
Henry's been poached out by another team, or is supposedly leaving for another team, and obviously Louis FA because he wants to play in Paris.
They're all FA besides.
Yeah. Well, obviously they're all FA, and then Henry's going to wind up somewhere. I just pray to God that Billy ends up somewhere as well, because he again was treading this weekend, and I don't know.
Couldn't Billy make Paris, which is why it's all.
Wait, sorry. What did you say, George? Chris, sorry. Did you just spill fucking intel?
What?
What did you say?
I said, didn't Billy say that he couldn't make it to Paris?
Oh, right.
That's not intel.
He said something entirely different.
What the fuck are you on about?
Well, he said a key word. He said a key word.
Do you think Chris has any idea what's going on in AMP?
Yeah, I don't know what day of the week it is.
Chris is trying to fix his mic still.
Yeah, I am. I don't know what's going on.
Henry and Gizmo on the same team? Question marks from Bids.
That's like a fucking youth team wet dream for me.
I think Bids is just feeding us absolute shite right now.
No, I think he's just putting hypotheticals in the chat.
Yeah, no, he's asking. I think hence the question marks.
Come on, Chris, fix your mic, mate.
I don't want to fix my mic. It's fine now. For now,
it's just not okay. Anyway, so yeah, Aporia is probably the only other notable team. I really hope Louis ends up somewhere because he is a really valuable captain and player. I don't think he's that bad on this game at all. I think what he brings to a team is much more than what is actually noted in a scoreline. And I really hope Billy ends up somewhere. Who's the fifth of this Aporia roster as well? I've forgotten.
Right, who you missed?
The fifth. I've got Billy, Henry, Louis, Revolt, and who? Billy, Henry, Louis, Jambo. Oh yeah, I hope all of them end up somewhere. I hope Louis and Jambo stick together because they've been a duo for years, and I really hope that maybe they can put a team together with Mike Revolt if he can play as well, and then just pick up 2 players. I don't know who those 2 players are going to be.
I think at the moment the strat really for them is just to try and find rosters, and if they can't, then they'll put something together themselves. Yeah. I mean, like free agency, it opens your options a lot more than just saying, "Hey, we're LF2 or whatever."
I mean, they're a pretty desirable core 3. In all fairness, a lot of FAs would be looking to go for that. I'm pretty sure Chaxton might be a welcome addition to that roster. Overall.
Maybe, yeah, that's true. But I wouldn't suggest that's so for like the top 8 teams right now.
No, of course not.
If you're joining a team that's just placed top 12,
you're going to have to try and make a team that is the kind of like greater than the sum of its parts. It's going to be a box of scraps pretty much, but you're going to have to try and work with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, we'll see what happens at the end of the day for these guys in Aporia, or like we'll see. Again, this is the magic of the 1K this weekend. I think it's going to be a testing ground for a number of new rosters, including these Aporia guys or ex-Aporia guys that are going to have to find a new team.
Yes. Okay, moving on then. I guess we can talk briefly about the CDL stuff. Let's just skip to the final and Ravens. Let's just talk about Ravens and the final because I'm not really going to go over this too much. Final was Dallas versus Chicago. Chicago once again are giving Dallas the hands. I don't think that series really, the scoreline reflects it as much because Dallas made it to pretty close in every single map game. Round 11 in the S&D, like 13 points in the hard point, a couple of points in the Dom. So like, I don't think that's particularly representative of the current state of Dallas, but admittedly they're not looking fucking spellbinding at the moment.
Yeah,
I think it's a better Dallas from what we've seen from their previous matchups.
Yeah, but they played fucking Chicago and Atlanta, mate. That's the only 2 matchups that we can take.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So they've played Chicago 3 times now and lost 3 times. So, but I think that that grand final series was the best we've seen Dallas against Chicago.
Yeah, the only fucking reason being is because Crim6 and Clayster decided that they wanted to roll back the clock to 2012. It's like you fucking Shotzi and Ilian nowhere, just nowhere.
Shotzi, mate.
Go back to Halo, man.
Here's the thing with Dallas Empire, right? Is as you say, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is at the end of the day, these guys have played very good teams so far. They've played Chicago Huntsman, Atlanta FaZe, Seattle Surge, which was a 3-0, and
they played them again. It was 3-1, right?
Which was right, so 3-1 here at London. But the thing is, for me, I don't know, the Dallas Empire. I think they're fine at the moment. They could easily be a top 4, top 6 team.
I think they're top 4 easily.
Yeah, like, well, I'm not gonna sit here and say the top 4 because again,
they are.
Simply.
Definitely.
Well, no, I don't think you could say that because we simply don't know. Again, the problem is with a lot of these fucking shitey power rankings is that no one even has a clue where teams are because
they haven't played each other.
The 12 teams have not played each other in the same place, and they will not do so until either mid-season or champs. And second, even at champs, it's only 8 teams, so it's not gonna fucking happen. But like. The thing is, again, like they haven't even played. Like Dallas have only played 4 of the teams, 3 of the teams, right? No, 4. 4 of the teams in the CDL so far. Like you can't compare. You can't.
They've played the
Dallas
best 2. Let's be real.
Like, well, you don't know that. You simply don't know that. Like,
I'm pretty confident with saying that.
Yeah, I mean, all right, fair enough. But like, shit can still change, and we're still early on. Like for the Dallas Empire, things are not over by any means. I do think they need to get their arse in gear. I think they've looked a little bit shaky, especially in that
the young kids, man, are just rivalry to be seen.
Like, well, I talked about Dallas before the season, and I said personally, I thought that Shotzi and Illy, like, it's a very big gamble, one that may or may not pay off, and I think it's slowly leaning towards the latter. But they still have time. There's a lot of raw skill there in those 2 players as FPS guys. There is a lot still to go in this roster. There's a lot of space, I think, in the tank to fill it up, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with these guys.
That's exactly what Clayster said, though. If you've seen his Twitter after the grand final match, he spoke on Shotzi and Ilian and saying himself, like, we knew that it was going to be a risk. Obviously, everybody's saying, go back to Halo and stuff. They're still new to the game. They're still new to the respawn. They're still trying to get used to respawn, etc. And Glaze, I think he worded it up in something like they just need a little bit more time as a team to show everybody what they actually can do. So whether they take the time to implement that, I mean, massively they have to, because as you said, it's a massive gamble riding on those 2 guys. And to make it pay off, you're going to have to put the work in and you've got to start now.
Online
the thing is, though, they can't put it into scrims either because scrims are just they're crap. It's all online and completely different. What they're going to really need to do is invest in an academy team. And then build
play them on LAN.
that way. That's what you're going to have to do. If you want to get these younger players up and running as quick as possible, boot camp with an academy. Simple as.
Yeah, I mean, what they've got players on the sub bench right now. They've got Tish and Tommy, right? That's their players on the sub bench. So they haven't got a bad sub bench, I think, by any means. It's just whether or not they end up using them, and I think they might have to. I've got an early prediction that there will be some form of changes.
I would like to see Tommy brought in.
Yeah, but for who though? You got Crim6 and Clayster are the 2 players he replaces. They're the brand.
True.
It's tough.
I mean, Tommy's
something categorically goes wrong, then Tommy doesn't really get onto that team.
No.
Like he's there as an absolute last resort. And don't get me wrong, I love the guy and I'd love to see him represent in Dallas, but I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, I think that's
there's a world in which if fucking Ravens just turned to shit that Rated gets traded for Tommy or something. But that's
What?
there's a world that
The
happens.
fuck are you talking about? Jesus fuck.
Sorry, that's my wet dreaming again. Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta stop it.
I'll tell you who's got a nice, easy ride. Embos. He's just sitting there rent free on that team.
Yeah, I mean, less we talk about Embos on the Chicago Huntsman, the better I think it will be for
Yeah,
our careers
that's-
in the future. So let's not touch that situation. But on I guess that is a good segue in sort of the opposite side of that, which is the Chicago Huntsmen continue to dominate. Again, you can't say they are the top team at the moment because they haven't played the Atlanta phase, but they seem to have an easy ride here at London.
Yeah.
Gunless is the best player in the game again.
I don't know. I really love looking at Envoy this weekend. I
Envoy
thought he
really
was
surprised me.
on fire this weekend.
Yeah.
I reckon he was MVP.
Well, no trophy, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think as an all in a collective, that team just gels and works so well together.
The roles are clearly defined, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Like everybody knows what to do. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't seem to be a shambles at any point during a series or a map. They just seem to know what to do and they're on point with it as well.
They do get a little bit of shaky leg in the start of hard points, but they always bring it back, which is mind blowing that they have that composure. I don't think there's really a lot more that we can say on Chicago, really. There's the conversation on Chicago really does come around when they play Atlanta, and that's when I'll pass judgment on Chicago full stop. I think that is the big metric for us right now. We have to wait until they play Atlanta, and I'm pretty sure the next event, if they're playing in this bracket system, they'll both wind up in the final pretty comfortably. The only other team that I'll talk about then in that regard, is that, unless anyone's got any thoughts on Chicago, would be the Royal Ravens. Overall, I thought a pretty decent performance from them. What is it, top 3? I want to say top four
because it's single elimination.
But that's just because of the bracket format. But I'm not going to talk about that anyway. I thought what they did play, whenever they played really well this weekend, and they nearly had a really good running into the final, but just managed to fall short to Dallas, which again was a fantastic series. You go up 2-0, but you really shouldn't be bottling that one. Even on maps that you've won on this weekend already, maybe it's just like burnout from London or too much pressure from the crowd or what have. But even still, like they played their hearts out this weekend, and I'm really happy with Wuskins this season as well. He's a fucking phenom.
He's phenomenal. You know, they got really quite unlucky in that search and destroy. That was one of the main problems. Was it 5 hit markers from Wuskins using the sniper? I don't think I've ever seen
that's ridiculous.
We're
literally sitting there.
Imagine like all of those shots connect, right? That game that changes like completely.
Yeah, 100%.
They go ahead and win that. Like, there's no way. Like it's that was a 2v1 that he had where the bomb was getting planted on B site Piccadilly. He takes the first shot on the guy running at statue, and he gets shot like it's a hit marker in the back, and you're like, what?
Yeah, I don't know what the fucking game was doing, to be honest with you. That was ridiculous.
Unfortunate.
That was the turning point.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And as you say, if you take that away, it's a different scenario, but can't take it away, unfortunately, and it happened.
It happens. Well, London Royal Ravens, I think in general, great team. I think they've really proved themselves that they hadn't done so already off the back of, because at the start of the season, you got to think, obviously, you know, I'll put a preface on this in saying that the power rankings are shite. They are bullshite, and they mean fuck all, regardless of where they come from. They are simply there as content pieces, and nobody should ever take any more from them than that. That being said, people were predicting the London Royal Ravens and it's like a 10th, 11th position at the start of the season. People were saying they were out of shite. And then they came out in week 1 and I think they won both of their matches, right? So like they're a pretty good team, and I think they've definitely proved that here. They could even be a top 4 team overall. Again, it just really depends how consistent they are going into the next few weeks, right?
They didn't win both their matches. They lost to Paris, so it was 1-1.
To be fair though, Paris again, like another roster that I think are a brilliant team, like really, really good. They seem so composed. They're just like, they know what they're doing, and their individual gun skill as well. They're winning all those one-on-one engagements, those 50-50s. The majority of them are going their way. And that's really the difference maker for Paris.
Right, let's crack on then. Last things that we want to talk about are pros and cons of the event overall and things that we'd like to change in future. I think the big thing that I want to start off by talking about is one of the biggest cons of the entire event was the stage setup for CDC. My God, what an atrocity. The fact that there's a very limited competitive integrity that can be there when the game is so sound heavy and you can't hear anything except Sweet Caroline. Yeah. That is a big problem, and I think hopefully in future that can be rectified. I mean, for Minnesota it wasn't a problem because it was basically in a different place. But for this event with the CDC setup, like it was cool for it to be immersive, and it was really good to get attention to it, so that everyone who was on the ground floor had to go through the CDC area. So I think that's a great thing, because there's a lot of casual viewers of Call of Duty who attended the London event who might not have been aware of CDC potentially, but then in the same aspect, there is also just so many problems with that. Like,
well, I mean, like it's a twofold problem actually. In general, right? As you say, the first big one is for the Challengers players, and I will preface this again by saying the CDL do know about these problems and they will
work on them 100%. This is the reason you have teething issues for this,
right? And I just want to say I really appreciate the fact that a lot of the players, they did not go to Twitter in the way that players at Minnesota did. They actually spoke to the CDL about
which was
it.
a very
I know
professional
there is actual feedback being taken in by the CDL, and you really have to give props to the CDL for actually listening and saying, look, we'll fix this next time.
The best thing about that, though, just to quickly interject, is the CDL have done a fantastic job at actually giving a feedback reference point for players as well. There is someone who they can go to most of the time. There's definitely contacts who are actually now being receptive towards the CDC feedback, which is absolutely fantastic for us and something that we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah,
so
like
massive,
the people are
massive
listening.
plaudits to the CDL for this.
Yeah, people are listening, and I really like that from the CDL. That being said, though, again, we'll just talk about it by saying, yes, Challengers is in a shitty place, and the players had to deal with the fucking over. Like, the base was ridiculously high. I don't know how anyone didn't tell I think they must have turned it down, but even then, on Saturday and even on Sunday, it was still
Saturday, it was fucking outrageous.
On Saturday, we tried to record an update video. We couldn't find anywhere that was quiet enough
just the
to do it, so we had to go outside.
What was going on?
My organs were being fucking shook. Like,
I don't know. I mean, like, they fixed it for Sunday, kind of, but it's still, it was way too loud. And of course, and the other thing is, they briefly mentioned this on Spitfire, and we kind of thought it at the event, was just the way that the crowd was set up was incredibly hindered by where the desk was and where Challengers was. Like, if you would have had like a set of back bleachers where you could have the crowd just like sitting there,
like we did last year,
the crowd levels would have been incredibly different.
Because the good thing about having like ground section and bleachered tiered system at the back is you have people at the back as well who can then like compete with other people at the front for projecting the noise. And also, if you've got a bleachered system, you can see people at the front getting loud and then get in with the crowd as well. So the crowd atmosphere, although it was fucking amazing anyway, could have been better. Like in an ideal world, what would have happened would have been that the stage setup would have been pushed further back across the other side, more similar to or even last year's setup would have been fine. Last year's setup at the CDL London
that was perfect.
CWL London was perfect, and it also made the argument for the fact that the integrity of the CDC side of things would have been much better, considering as the fact that the speakers would have been facing the opposite way, reverberating around the other side of the arena, and you wouldn't have had as many problems with not being able to hear things. So even if you just wanted to push that stage back from last year's setup a little bit further in towards the more middle area of the room, because you don't need as much room for the CDC this time around, what you could have done that and had more seats, and you could probably sold more tickets, because I know that more people wanted to sit on the ground floor and not up in the wings. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, right? Because Challengers was there, right? You had this massive fucking space between what is the stage, that was essentially 3/4 of the way down the copper box, and then people sitting on the wings, like all the way up here on the wings. They're not fucking screaming. No one's going to hear
like 800 yards away.
They're so disconnected. And the difference in pricing for the tickets between those two, between Talons and Wings, was so minimal, was so small. It was literally who got the tickets first. Like, it was stupid. In my opinion, it was stupid. They will fix it though. But that is just how it was at this event. But hopefully it gets fixed for June. I've no doubt that it will do.
Good question from Jono. Is the June event still in the copper box? I think it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So I think the copper box is the best venue for it. Like, it proved to be for CWL London.
I mean, you have inbuilt bleachers. You have the setup you want to do whatever you want there at the event. You literally can set it up however I mean, like Bryce said on Spitfire, right? You have the fucking G3 setup where you can have it long ways. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, there are so many different things you can do with the copper box.
It's such a versatile arena. Yeah.
Like, I will say, right, it looks really nice. It looked really nice in the setup. Like, if you looked at it on paper from the bird's eye view that we got on the email, that did look like a really nice setup. But then when you actually thought about it, you're like, in practice, this doesn't work.
Yeah, it's like de jure, de facto. And de facto is it wasn't really as optimal as it could have been. The only difficulty that I can imagine with putting the stage setup like how it was last year is if you want a desk on the open floor, then you're going to have the desk somewhere else, because it's just in a very awkward position. I mean, you can have it upstairs, I'm sure, but like there's...
up by the casters.
Up by the casters, yeah, it's not a problem. I think one thing that I'll also make a quick comment about is the food stations were not all open, which seemed a little bit weird, but that's by the by. Beer availability, good.
Yeah, it was alright.
They didn't run out.
They didn't
this
run
time.
out, which is good. I think they learned from their mistakes last time.
No, I just think the crowd wasn't as rowdy this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That-
this was the
that
case.
was it.
This was the case with the 2-hour delay on Sunday because of waiting for Madcap for the hype battle and
I
stuff like
drained
that.
us all.
Yeah, everyone was just like done after the London loss. There was just nothing left for that final, and then the losers bracket or whatever the other match was. Like no one gave a fuck.
Well, it
I
also
was-
didn't help that we had that storm, so everyone was kind of leaving.
Everyone had to
early
leave
anyway.
home anyway. Like
Yeah.
obviously, there's extraneous factors that you can't compete with, but then there's obviously the side of the things that you can compete with, which is those. Like just because London are out last year didn't make a difference for everyone. Reciprocity were out pretty fucking early, so we were still hyping it up for American teams in the bracket. That's pretty good.
Well, that's because we had all the algae shite going on.
Well,
as well.
I remember my life peaked at the moment where Simp hit that 3-piece fucking snipe on
Oh
Grid.
God, stop it! That was so disgusting.
My
I
life
still watch
peaked.
that back now just to think, how the fuck did he do that?
My life peaked at that moment. I'm never getting back from that. Like that's it right there. But like there's so many different things that could have been done with the arena, and I was from what it was all right. I think they'll learn their lesson. I think London are the European community has always been very tight knit as it is, and if we have London as the spearhead for that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of conversation between players and people at London, and the feedback loop just is naturally going to be pretty well received. So I can say with pretty good confidence that the June event will probably be like 5 times better.
It's bigger as well, right? I've heard
Yeah.
it's bigger.
There's a
teams,
bigger bracket as
bigger
well for
prize
CDC.
pool, right? So if things will be bigger, things will be better. Hopefully, we'll see what happens at the June event. One thing I do want to touch upon, of course. So at Minnesota, we talked about the Challengers stream. Still no Challengers stream at this event. We basically got it confirmed that it's unlikely to be any of the events, right? I mean, what are we thinking about that?
Well, it was mentioned that it could be.
There
at
was a
the
surge.
Yeah,
Seattle
this-
event.
yeah,
Big
one.
champs and then champs. They said that they could possibly do something, but that's well into the future. But I mean, it's crappy, obviously, for those of us who love like watching the Challenger streams and are involved in the amateur Call of Duty scene. But it's nothing we can do. All we can do now is get behind those that are trying to cover it as much full. So like the CDC update, so Alicia and such, and us. We went to.
Oh, I'm never getting more tired on this.
BTC underscore
Blow our own trumpet, boys. This is our fucking moment. We
Sunday made me so tired.
we were 10 seconds away from having a good stream, except for shitty Dutch chargers. We'd have actually had a stream.
Yeah.
For real,
Crazy.
though, from
But-
me being at home, shout out to you guys as
We
well.
we know for next time what to do. So next time, just if anyone wants to run a stream, you need a receptive colleague at the CDL. You need someone to tell admins that we're okay to do it, and then you need a laptop with enough processing power to run an Elgato and OBS. Sorted. You can do the jankiest fucking stream setup there is, and you can probably make it work.
Mhm.
But we
Yeah.
know for next time.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I think the thing is, people kind of like before this event, I was kind of like, well, it's kind of shitty that we don't have a Challengers stream.
And then we did everything
that
we could
being
on the
said,
Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, I think now I kind of understand more, and I think players need to understand more that there is a lot that goes into Challenger streams. I still see people complaining about it, and it's like, well, there's a lot that goes into stream. There's a lot of costs that just beyond the casters that you don't see. So it isn't effective.
There's
It
equipment,
isn't
there's
cost
the
effective,
production,
right?
there's everything.
Well, yeah, okay. It's not cost effective for the Challenger stream to be run at the moment. I will say that the amateur community have kind of dug their own grave in this sense. I mean, the viewership that we had for the past 2 years for the Open or
You've
the
made this
last
point.
year was-
You made this point
Well, yeah.
before, and
Yeah,
my,
but
my
it's a good
issue
point.
with this is that last year though, at every single event we were running 4 separate broadcasts, so we were
Yeah.
getting coverage of every other game. At the moment, we don't have as many teams in professional scene at the event, so there's only necessity for 1 broadcast. We don't need to run 4 broadcasts. So this time around, you'll only be running 2. So in the argument of the fact that there won't be as much divided viewership, the CDC stream might actually get way more than the amateur stream did last year, the open bracket stream
It
did last
might,
year.
but they still don't want to take those numbers away.
I
from the
don't think
CDL.
there's that much of a risk though.
It depends. It depends. Like we
Hey,
know
I had
there's a
20k
big-
people watch me 100-point club comeback. Sorry, get me 100-point comeback at Fort Worth last year.
Yeah,
20k,
well,
that's a pretty fucking healthy viewership. Last year, Fort Worth probably got like 80k max.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll see what happens with the Challenger stream this year. Hopefully, there's some big changes, but I kind of understand why they don't.
There is
have it
obviously
at the
that
moment.
tweet that went out from one of the guys at Seattle Surge that is shining some light for us at the moment. But
I think if there's going to be any streams, it'll be observer point of view, only,
it'll just be observed.
which is fine.
And I
think
was
that's
also a little bit
Yeah.
upset there was no CDC final. I think even if you're not going to do a stream, CDC final should be on main stage.
100%.
I mean, they were already so far behind that they really couldn't afford to do that this weekend.
You know, here's how
That's
it is.
that's they made a rod for their own back for that though. Like, what if you're
Yeah.
gonna fucking get anybody to do this hype battle? Why Madcat?
Yeah.
He's gonna be in the CDC until top 3, pretty much guaranteed.
He brought the energy though.
Yeah.
Like he
So
made the
good.
hype back.
Just a pure Brummy lad, isn't he?
Yeah, but
Fucking
like,
boy.
but I agree with that.
My
point.
guy.
One doing it. Like you could easily have someone like Tommy who was there doing it. Any of the traveling subs could easily be on that team playing against Sensor. So I don't
I
get
mean,
it
to be
personally.
fair, even like you could have played against Sensor. Like,
Well, I
Would've been
mean, anyone
fine.
could play against Sensor. You could put a broomstick against.
Nicky Romero had him in his back pocket.
Literally,
Like,
Nicky
I'm
had
pretty
him.
sure.
Nicky had him
you
fucking
could've been.
chalked up.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I just think I do think they should remove the hype battle and add in challengers finals. I think that should be the play.
Mez is muting his mic and going. What
Yeah,
for?
I'll leave my cam on for you, so don't worry about messing it up. You
Well,
guys-
I think we're going to wrap up pretty soon anyway, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
we
we're pretty much done talking about everything.
I think that's pretty much everything. Unless there's anything else that you want to change from the event, we can wrap the conversation here. Really,
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
not at all.
I think
Just
the only
closing
thing
thoughts.
obviously would be the CDC stream. It makes it difficult for pro teams to scout. It makes it difficult for people to get recognised. These are all the factors that have been spoken about in different amount of times from bids, from Dave, from even professional players like Scraps and Co, who have spoken about this as well. There is definitely a wave for people to want to have this, and even in the pro scene, there's obviously motivation for it to scout out people who might be viable for picking up mid-season or something like that whenever roster windows open. So there is obviously that as a really big viability that needs to be addressed. I think there are being steps made to try and improve that situation, and I'm sure for Season 2 of the CDL next year, whatever the game might be, I'm feeling more and more confident that there probably will be a Challenger stream because it has been so... there's been a lot of community pushback about it. However, I don't know if that's going to be the overall reception. Like, we'll see how much the CDL want to budge on it. Obviously, they want to keep all the viewership for their investment, which is perfectly fine. Like, obviously, if you've got that much investment from so many different people, and you're going to have more investment coming in next year, then why would you want to draw the attention away from that? And especially, like, why it's the same argument. Why would you want to put the CDC teams that can beat the CDL teams up against them? It's just bad for brand.
That's pretty much it. I mean, it would be fun to have an amateur pro, wouldn't it? It would be fun to have
really
like a
fucking would.
sort of like,
Oh.
here's your amateur players coming up against your pro players. Let's see what happens. I mean, the majority of the time, the pros would probably slam some of the amateurs against the fucking wall. But in the cases of like Singularity and Train Hard and even War and Royal Ravens Academies, there might be a slim chance of them coming out and dealing some proper damage.
Not even
but
slim. Singularity would get half the fucking teams done.
100%.
We'll see what happens. I think as the season goes on, obviously these players are going to get picked up, and
We'll
the
see about
the
that.
teams will. Well, I mean, like the
Amateur
rosters are locked
buyouts,
at the
boys.
moment.
Amateur buyouts. Spanish scene.
I know the rules are changing. I know that the rules are changing for amateur teams, so I think maybe the amateur scene itself is going to get a lot more spicy as the season goes on.
Well, it depends if they're from the Spanish scene or not with their 9k buyouts for players that don't deserve it. Anyway,
Not sure where you've got that figure from, George.
was it not 9k? Was it like 4k? Something like that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
4K. You've doubled the figure and added another K there, but
Yeah,
Alright.
but there might be somebody with 9k buyout. You never know.
Yeah.
Renkor probably, or fucking
Renkor.
Eric Boom or Vickle. I don't know.
I'm at least a 10.
At least 10? Alright, we'll see. Anyway, that's going to be it for us
Same.
today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into the Beyond the Call post-London recap show. Obviously, we're back on Saturday with the 1K show. That will be coverage pretty much from like 1 o'clock onwards is usually our start time around then. We let the first few rounds slide away, and then we get in about round 3 or so most weeks. So hopefully that will be coming in from, what do we say, like 1 o'clock usually? Half 1?
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Or-
Somewhere between
Yeah.
1 and
Oh,
half,
yeah.
somewhere between 1 and 2, maybe 2:05 or 2:15 if Brody's on his schedule as usual. But we'll see. And depends if Mez has got his camera working as well. All these factors are.
I
pretty
mean, my
much,
camera's always working now, but if we are just a little bit late, you can feel free to go and follow, of course, the BTC Card Twitter.
Yes.
But I would just put in the chat, so you will see exactly when we're going to go live, what time, and you guys can be ready and waiting for us, and we'll be ready and waiting for you to bring you all the action.
And we've got more content coming soon on the Beyond the Call Twitch and Twitter and YouTube as well. So, of course, all those links are available on the Twitter page. You can find them all pretty much through that link that Connor's just posted in the chat. And yeah, more content coming soon, more Bromley Boys, more Beyond the Call Show, some new projects that we're starting up as well. So keep yourself very much tuned for that. But from us this week, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.